And we are live.
All
Okay.
right.
Thank you very much. Would you rather I call you George or Lazy Eyebrow? What do you prefer,
It
one on
doesn't
one?
matter. Whatever's easiest to say.
Okay, George. Uh, uh, so thank you very much for coming on the podcast. It's still a very tiny podcast, and it is nice to have a big Transformer celebrity on the podcast.
Don't call me that. I'm not a celebrity.
You totally are, though. I mean,
Okay.
in the Transformer world, you're well known. You. How many followers do you have? You've got a.
I'm just shy of 30,000.
That's a lot of people. That's
It's
a.
true.
That's a lot of
So,
people that said, "I want to know every time that this guy has something to say on YouTube. Anytime he
I
has a
guess
video, it's
it's true. It's no. You're right. It's. I'm not trying to downplay that, especially the people that have subscribed, because it's awesome. I am constantly blown away by numbers. Like I'm not doing this for the numbers, but I see the numbers, and I'm more of a math person. I see that number, I'm like, oh, that's crazy.
yeah. You were saying earlier how you've only been to one convention and it wasn't Transformer centric. I was talking to Patriot Prime on his show a couple weeks ago, and what he was telling me is that the first time that he went to a TF con, and he only had, I think, a couple thousand followers at the time, that all kinds of people were walking up to him, yeah, shaking his hand, saying, I've been watching your stuff for a long time. I think you would be blown away if you went to a TFCon or BotCon, whenever those become a thing again, uh, by how many people walk up to you and recognize you. You'd probably get more people coming up to you than the voice actors.
It's possible. I mean, YouTube is kind of more of a thing now than regular media. A lot more people watch it. Even at that toy convention we were talking about earlier, I had one person recognize me. That was back when I had like less than 10. But I knew he was also going to the same convention at the same time, so that's how we met up, type of thing. But I am
Right.
curious. Like I'm always curious of the statistics of something like that. Like, what are the chances that one guy and 30 million people in one city would recognize, type thing? I mean, it's
Yeah.
obviously the statistics jump higher when you go to a themed place like a TFCon or something like that. But
Yeah. The flip side of that is it's hilarious when uh, somebody of note, like some kind of voice actor or a writer for Transformers, uh, has a table at one of these conventions. They're a guest, and it's sometimes there are so few people there, and it's to the point where it's kind of like freaky, where you could just go talk to them. They're not doing anything, and yet you feel like you shouldn't because nobody else is, and you don't want to be the one guy that does.
yeah,
Who's who's the guy who played Lando? What's his name in Star Wars?
uh, Billy D. Williams.
Okay, I saw him at a Comic Con in Niagara Falls, and there was nobody at his table. It was the strangest thing. I felt like I could go meet him, but nobody. It was like nobody cared, and to me that just blew my mind.
Yeah.
This guy is like one of the staples of pop culture, and nobody wants to talk to him. What's going on? And
I think it's that, but it's also kind of like the on the flip side. Like I've met, I'm not sure if you've ever seen. Like I'm kind of a Nintendo fan too. There was a guy that did a Star Fox animated series just in his own time. It's called The Fox in Space, and he was at a Comic Con in Moncton because he lived in Maine. And so he announced that he was going to be there. And I'm like, I'm in the city. Let's go meet him, type thing. And like, he's just a person, but it's the fact that you know him for a thing that you really like, and you're like, what am I going to say? The only thing I have in common is your work, and I'm pretty sure he's sick to death talking about it. But
yeah,
I want to meet him, type thing. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic in your head.
for sure. I That's always what stops me is because all of the questions I can think of are stupid ones, and I
Yeah.
don't want to be the guy who walks up with a stupid question. Well, what, you know, what was the inspiration behind this voice? Ah, geez, another one of these questions. Well, and then they've got this like scripted, story that they tell every time, and you're not really getting anything new out of it. And
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Okay, so we kind of just jumped into conversation. Why don't you talk about or why don't you give the spiel of who you are and what you do just briefly?
Okay, so for those that don't know, I'm George. I go by the Lazy Eyebrow. I have a YouTube channel where I make reviews of Transformers, mainly, sometimes other things, but I do it in stop motion because I find talking with my hands. It I'm not good unscripted. I'm not sure if it's coming across right now in this conversation, but there's that, and I also really like stop motion. I've loved stop motion since I was really, really young. So I decided to take that aspect as well as my like for robots and all thing toys and combine them and make videos. And I made something that I wanted to see that there wasn't anything of beyond 25 videos from TF Source. And so because there wasn't anything of that, I made what I wanted to watch, and therefore people enjoy it. They seem to enjoy what I'm passionate about, which I think is a main thing.
Yeah, for sure. Now, for the record, you're coming across great unscripted, unless you wrote all of this down. Uh,
No,
maybe you had all kinds of prepared answers. If he
no.
says, "What do you do?" Okay, look over there. There's my script. Uh,
No,
but
I've said that one enough times that I know what to say. Uh,
mhm.
if you've ever seen my update videos, which should be like 2 minute video of, hey, this is what's going on in my life, this is where the channel's going, turns into like a 15-minute discussion of me repeating myself because I have no idea if I said something.
Yeah, no, you're coming
Damn,
across
that's
great.
what
But the fact that you script um, and that you have these carefully worded assessments when you're going through your reviews, that's one of the things that really sets your reviews apart. It's a degree of professionalism, and you can tell that it's well thought out. And I don't want to knock the people that are unscripted because a lot of good stuff can come from that.
hmm
And I guess I'm trying to be an unscripted YouTuber myself, so nothing against it, but you clearly have you have an approach that is a breath of fresh air compared to just uh, rambling like this. It's really nice to have you. No, seriously,
I
because
get
this
what you're
gets
saying.
old. It
Yeah.
really does. And when you're trying to make a compelling point, you better have thought your point out ahead of time. Otherwise, it's not really always worth listening to.
Yeah, it's that, and also, like I said, with the whole repeating myself. If I'm going to make a point and then I make it like 10 times trying to get my words across, people are going to click off because they're bored.
Hmm.
But what I was going to say was, I think that's the trade-off, though, is because like scripting something takes a lot of time. Like I think the best output rate that I have is like a review every 2 weeks, and even that I'm struggling to get nowadays because of just the way scheduling is. But like the unscripted ones, you can just take any random old toy, sit in front of a camera, and go like, "This is Wheeljack. He turns into this, and he goes into a robot, and this is what he does." And then you can make a 5 minute video and crank it out every day.
Hmm.
So I think that's the trade-off: is you can review everything you want to, but I've got a backlog of like 30 figures I want to talk about, and I'm probably not going to get to it by the end of 2021.
Well, the quality of of your videos is why I think people keep coming back to
hmm
them. And in addition to the scripting, you put a lot of work into your videos because of the stop motion. Do you do the stop motion skits every video?
I didn't used to. It was just kind of when I thought about it, but since rebooting the channel, um, I've modified the format so that I always open with a skit. I recently I haven't quite done that. Like if I can't think of anything, I won't do it. But even when I don't do an opening skit, there's usually some joke in there somewhere that's like a little one-off thing.
Hmm. Um, your skits are probably my favorite aspect of your channel. This was another thing we talked about before going on air. I'll find myself just watching all the playlists, even though I've seen most of them before. And to my wife Emily, she's not into Transformers, so I hope it's not too much for her that I have Transformers things playing all the time. But it's great. It's hilarious. It's like Robot Chicken, but it's got an edge to it that works well if you're already into Transformers. Whereas Robot Chicken is a little bit it's more for the layman. You know, it's more for those
Kind
who
of.
yeah, they can only go so deep with their references. But every one of your videos is like targeted comedy to me. And so for me, I get it. I'm like, yeah, I do find that funny too. That is, it's like you're. So, did you come at the comedy part of your skits on purpose, or was it more so just about making cool stop motion videos?
See, okay, so as I mentioned before, I emulated the TF source formula, and they had a goodness, I can't talk about something in my hands apparently. So it was really boring. Like if you watch the first Astro Train video, it's just me talking and giving incorrect facts, and this is Astro Train and whatnot. Soundwave, I threw a joke in there. I'm just a naturally like I like to laugh. I like to watch funny things. I like to joke with people, and so in the beginning it was boring, and then I threw more jokes in, and then I just kind of turned the video into what I wanted to do and what I like to do. I like to make people laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully I make more than a few people laugh, but
For
apparently
sure.
I do. So,
It's up there with like there isn't a whole lot of comedic content within the Transformers world
yeah,
generated by fans, but you're up there. If there's a top three list, you're in that list somewhere. MGO
thank
skits
you.
are hilarious too. You know the other comparison I keep thinking of. Your stuff reminds me of the Doctor Smooth skits.
Yes. Oh, I watched those a lot when I was a kid.
Do you know
Oh,
what
it's a
happened to
kid
that guy?
teens. No, I'm just going to assume life. That's what
Yeah,
happens to all of us.
I would love to see more videos out of Doctor Smooth because I used to watch those all the time too. They were
Yeah,
hilarious and they were really like high production value and the voices were great, which is another thing that you do phenomenally. Which is why I think about Doctor Smooth because he had this ability to come up with these good skits, to animate them well, and to do the voices. I'm assuming, for all I know, there was a whole team called Doctor Smooth. I don't know the guy.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Who I think no. Dr. Smooth was the voices and Randall NG was the animator. As far as I know. I could be wrong about that one.
Okay.
But to be honest, some of their voice impression, like for instance, their blaster is kind of the inspiration for my blaster.
Oh yeah.
Like G1 Blaster doesn't really sound. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a ring modulator added to his voice, but I added anyway because it kind of sounds like I liked what they did, and I kind of took inspiration of that into my skits.
Yeah,
Type
for
of thing.
sure. Did you? Are there any voices that you've struggled with more than others?
Anything by Casey Kasem, I just cannot pull off. I can't do Cliff Jumper. I can't do Teletran. And there's a few others he did. Oh, Blue Streak. I can't do Blue Streak either. Not to save my life, apparently.
Gotcha. I've got a question about your Bumblebee voice. Do you have some kind of dislike of that character? Just maybe a little bit.
Uh, See, I did when I came up with the voice, and then it just became a running joke. And I get flack for it nowadays, but it's like, no, it's just the running joke of the channel. Live with it.
Yeah. No, there's nothing wrong with it. It's hilarious. But it just it makes Bumblebee seem like worse than Wheelie. It's he's just so pathetic in all of your videos. And it's
just
great.
this-
It's great.
It's
But
just this little
yeah.
kid.
Yeah, for sure. Which is kind of funny, the whole concept of a Transformers kid, especially with sometimes they seem to be born old, sometimes they're born kids. Do they ever change, or do they just stay kids the whole time? Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. The running jokes on my channel is Bumblebee's a kid, Hot Rod's a teen that instigates Bumblebee to do stupid things, and what else? Optimus is kind of like a dad to everyone who just can't understand why everyone's doing stupid things.
Yeah.
And everyone else is everyone else.
Mm-hmm. You you also seem to like you portray Hot Rod in that kind of teenage way. Does that is that indicative of an opinion you have about the whole controversy? Like some people really hate Hot Rod because he killed Prime. Do you have a stake in that?
See, I get it that it's a writing decision, and it's not the character killed him. It's the writing team killed him because of Mark. I get that. But that being said, I hate Hot Rod as a character.
Really?
I don't like his whole I'm just going to take charge until he actually gets command, and then he's just an idiot. I'm rewatching season 3 right now because maybe I'm wrong about that. I was wrong about animated. Maybe I'm wrong about this too. But he got command in season 3, and then spent the entirety whining that he was an Optimus, and Ultra Magnus did his job anyway. I just think
Right.
that's a terribly written character.
Okay. Well, let me throw this at you. Are you a fan of Batman Beyond?
No, I wasn't allowed
No.
to watch that either when I was a kid. And I just never watched it out beyond that. I wasn't allowed to watch a lot of shows that were good guy, bad guy, violence kind of thing. My mom was really against that.
I see. I see. The Batman Beyond is a surprising one, nonetheless. That is not one that I would have thought of, but I guess there are some pretty dark themes there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the comparison's going to be lost on you, but the when I think of G1 story writing, admittedly, I tend to focus on what I like, and I think we all do that to a certain extent. And I also focus on like the ideas that I'm seeping through, even if they weren't properly fleshed out. I think that the fact that some semblance of that idea or of a story arc kind of made its way to the story, to the cartoon or whatever it happens to be, is pretty cool. And so, in regards to Hot Rod, he reminds me of Terry McGinnis in Batman Beyond, and he had this complex of living underneath Batman's shadow and trying to be the new Batman while the old Batman was still around, and having to take instruction from him and be disciplined by him. And there was a similar dynamic because Batman wasn't around as Batman anymore, and so he was supposed to be the new one. He had the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he was also a teenage character. And so and they did a very good job of fleshing that out. And I think that if you want to like Hot Rod and you want to like Rodimus, that's the angle to take for it.
See, I get that, and I like that concept. It's a good concept. I just feel it wasn't written well. Like, it could have definitely I can't remember the name of the episode, but the one where the Quintessons reanimate Optimus.
Dark Awakening.
Okay, yeah. And I think it's like 4 episodes in of him moping that he's not good at it, and then Optimus shows up, and it's like clearly he's not well. He's missing an arm, and he's just mentally unstable. But it's like, here, take the Matrix, shove it in, shove. Like,
yeah,
you're just an idiot, man.
Yeah, like and so that's what I'm talking about when I mean like it's the concept that I like, right? So what I like about it is that I wish that the episode was longer and that they had a chance to flesh out that scene, where they had a chance to maybe reconsider, okay, how broken should Optimus be for this story to work? Okay, maybe he shouldn't be a complete wreck because then this doesn't work, but he can be a little damaged and a little weird, and we can have we can still have that plot point, which is a good one, of Rodimus ignoring the obvious because he's so blinded by his own insecurities, basically. It's the whole premise. And then that's a good premise, but it didn't quite get fleshed out. But then there's also, like, you have to consider how well were those kinds of premises fleshed out at the time in similar TV shows. That's
fair. I have no idea, but that's a fair point. Did you ever watch the Headmasters seasons?
I've seen probably the first 6-7 episodes, and that's about it.
Well, spoilers for anyone watching, but because Japan didn't get the movie, they tried kind of retelling that whole, not retelling it sort of thing, but like a lot of the themes. I think it's in episode 8 or something. Optimus does die again, and Hot Rod is there. And then it was completely unrelated. Optimus ended up sacrificing himself so like other people wouldn't die or something. But Hot Rod runs in at the right time, and then it's like, I'm dying here, take the Matrix type thing. And it was such a much better handled pass off, and I believe Hot Rod became I feel like in Headmasters he was written in a much better way than he was in season 3, the American cartoon. Yeah, and I appreciated it then, but by that point, going back full circle, what we were talking about, it's kind of too late. He's just a character on my show that's an idiot.
Yeah, no chance of Rodimus becoming the hero of your next skit.
No
comedy about it at all. Just a serious Rodimus Prime as a hero, and you better take that seriously.
I don't know. I don't even have really a Rodimus Prime figure to turn him into that. It's just. It's Hot Rod before he became a leader. And it's funny because I've gotten flack on that too. Like there's been a few people that are like, oh, you're one of those G1ers that think Hot Rod killed Optimus. Like, no, just like making stupid jokes.
Yeah. How is that a G1er thing? I mean, there are definitely a lot of G1ers that are feel very strongly about that. But it's also, I think there are a lot of G1ers that like Rodimus Prime. He was still G1.
He was, yeah.
Yeah. Um,
And G1 kind of technically ends at Beast Wars, but also includes Beast Wars. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. It's weird how that all worked out.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about the stop motion aspect of your whole channel.
Sure.
Is that like, to what extent did you have to work on getting good at that and learning the techniques behind it, and to what extent are you just naturally talented at it?
That's a really good question. I'm not gonna lie. So I've always had a love of it. When I was 10, 12, I had one of those Lego Star Wars kits from Episode 1. And it came with a little advertisement of other Lego kits you could buy. And there was a Steven Spielberg set that was, it had like a Godzilla foot and whatever. And like, I was looking at that and already coming up with ways on how I could stop motion things and make it move and whatnot. And then when I was in high school, did you go to Westdale?
No, no, you totally threw me off with your Hamilton reference. Just
Sorry.
there. Yeah,
But,
so George and I are both. Were you born in Hamilton?
I was born in Mississauga. But,
Same as me.
fair enough.
There you go. So George and I were both born in Mississauga and spent most of your childhood in Hamilton, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and well, I'm still here, so you've managed to escape. I don't know how bad the city was at the time that you were here, but it's a little run down right now.
Anyways,
Yeah, sorry. Back to your
no,
story.
it's all good. It's all good. In Westdale, they had media arts, and that was like just video editing and whatnot. But like the first thing she taught us to do was to make what she called a montage, which was basically just a 1 frame per second stop motion.
Mm-hmm.
And like once I kind of got the hang of that, it's like we could do some fun stuff with that. So I had my friend who was like 4'2", and we found a bunch of empty lockers. And like, you know, when Scooby Doo, when they run out of one door and show up in another type, we did that with both empty lockers and whatnot. And we had lots of fun with that. And that's like the first thing of stop motion. And then after that, I just, when we moved out to BC, I made a little Hot Wheels stop motion race. It's looking back on it, it's terrible, but you know, everyone's got to start somewhere type thing. And after that, it was just practice. Like there's an aptitude, like I like showing a sense of scale and thinking about it and whatnot. I've also got a history in 3D modeling and whatnot, 3D animating, sorry. So there's that plus just 15 years of practice.
Mm-hmm. What kind of 3D animating have you done?
I started with 3ds Max, and that was grade 11 and 12.
I'm totally foreign to the consoles. That's a program, I guess, that you would have used.
Yeah. So
That's cool.
it's by Autodesk, which they make Fusion. I'm not sure what you use for. Like Toy Hacks makes the printed gun parts, or what program does your dad make those, or?
Yeah, so my dad's more involved in the process, and unfortunately, it's one of those subjects I'm gonna like totally stay clear of, which might come across terrible. But
Oh no, that's fine. I was
Yeah.
just curious what program does he design it, or if you're allowed to talk about that.
And that's the problem, is that because it's not like the part of the business that
Oh,
I'm
okay.
the most focused on, I don't even know what I should or shouldn't say, right?
Fair enough.
So yeah, but like it's not like a crazy, unheard of, revolutionary one.
That's all good.
I'm sure it's a fairly common program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I figured it was Fusion, but if you can't talk about it, you can't talk about it.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So, do you find that animating or the stop motion for the Transformers or for Transformer toys is easier than Lego, for instance? Lego to me seems like the epitome of like, if you want to do stop motion, that's your thing.
See, I don't know. What drew me to Transformers was the whole transforming aspect. Go figure. Lego's great because you can lock the surface down and lock the studs in, but the problem with that is the minifigures I find is really limited, which I guess can be a blessing because, as they say, limitation breeds creativity. And I've seen people like Brotherhood Workshop is a good example. He makes many figures move in amazing ways you'd never think possible. And so like there's that. I just like Transformers in this, like I love animating the transformation, and I think that comes across in my videos because I actually just posted a little snip of the next review, which is Ratchet of Earthrise Ratchet. The way it works is, for those that don't know, you have to take the arms up and then spin the whole top of it around, and the legs open up. But I made it transform where it looked like the chest, the bumper comes out of the chest and it folds down. And so I've just been playing with that, and I think that's the kind of the fun part for me. So I'm not sure which is easier. Lego probably, because you can do pretty much anything with Lego, not so much minifigs, but Lego itself. But I just like animating with Transformers.
Have you ever thought about doing any kind of like an actual like, so you do shorts, right? You do little skits. Have you ever thought about doing more of a serialized, like, here's a full story? It can be comical, of course, but
I've thought about it. Like it's definitely not like I'm never doing that. It's just a matter of time, and also I'm terrible at writing story and exposition and whatnot. It comes across really terribly. I can write funny, goofy skits. I just can't write stories. I'm not good. I have ideas for stories, and like there was one thing I wanted to do where it was Nemesis Prime versus Optimus, and it was like going to be like an 8-episode thing, but I just couldn't write it well enough.
I bet just offhandedly that whatever it is you would come up with would be a lot better than you give yourself credit for. Your stuff, so far as the dialogue goes, anyways, is just on point all the time. The timing is amazing. And of course you pull it off with the voices.
Yeah. That's for humor, though. That's the thing, is the story I was going to write was going to be more of a serious tone, which I guess I could throw humor in there too, but it was like... Also at the time, it was 2013, and I was just kind of starting out, so it turned out not great in the animation-wise, which is why I scrapped it. It's been in the back of my mind for years, but I also don't have the figure I would need to do it, which I guess wouldn't be too hard to track it down.
Yeah. Well, if you ever decide to start your own stories, I think that would be great. There are not as many fan like continuing fan fiction stories, and maybe I'm just not aware of them because of course I'm only involved in my corner of the fandom, and there just don't happen to be a whole lot of story writers around me. I'm curious though, do you come up with stories for your own toys? Do you ever play those out?
Not really. I mean, I used to, but nowadays it's just I'll be driving and my mind is idle, and I'll think of Optimus's trailer running across space and time to get to him, and then that'll make me chuckle. But that's kind of what I do.
Yeah.
Serious stories, there is a wealth of them. Being the whole voice acting part of the thing, I get asked frequently to voice these things, and there is more than a fair share of stories. Some fantastic, some you could work on that a little more and make it come back to me in a bit, but you know, everyone's at their own kind of level of quality.
Do most of the people doing so what you're saying, just to be clear, is there are people out there actually coming up with full-fledged stories? Are they mainly using stop motion?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Oh, there's quite a wealth of that.
Huh. You probably had a huge hand in that, in kind of popularizing these stop motion. I mean, I imagine Robot Chicken did too, but within the Transformers fandom, that a lot of that probably ties back to you.
Maybe, I don't know. I have no idea.
You're just too humble. You're the person known for the stop motion Transformer stuff. Of course, it comes back to you at least a little bit, right?
I guess.
So how much cheating do you have to? Or let me back up a little bit. Do you have to cheat at all when you do stop motion? Do you have to go in and edit things out of the picture because you needed them there to hold the toy up? Do you have
all
to?
the time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the bulk of the work?
No, it didn't used to be. But with learning new skills and whatnot, see, I try and do as much as I can without editing it because that takes a while. So A long time ago, there was no editing, but like the camera quality was so terrible that you couldn't actually there was, let's see, interviews 20 to 30. I was actually using fishing line to suspend the figures, and the video quality was like 360, so you could not see the fishing line whatsoever. I used to use my hand in there and then edit out my hand and take a clean frame and whatnot. Stuff like the scene recreations of like the bumper and the intro and whatnot, that those take forever because it's literally just taking a picture and then having to manually cut out every single frame and then transpose it all together. But nowadays for reviews, it's like I might spend an hour of post processing, and I've built a whole overhead rig to get that working correctly.
Wow. So there's like it's becoming more and more of a science for you. You're really working down like or a craft is probably
That's a
more
better
akin
way to
what
put
you're
it,
doing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's just more of, I know what I want it to look like, and so it's like, okay, I know how to make it there, but it's more work, but it's worth it, so I'll do it.
Yeah, it's that perfect mix of an artistic skill and having the the perfect tools for the job, which is what somebody doing woodworking would be doing, or somebody who does roofing, which is what you did. Yeah, no, that's interesting. So to me, it's sorry, I'm drawing a blank here. I had a question lined up for me, and I'm always trying to keep like, okay, I have to have a question in the back of my head so that the second there's some dead air, and then when that question goes, it's a big panic in my mind. Oh no, I've forgotten my question. Now there's nothing to talk about, but of course there's lots to talk about. What do you have coming up on the horizon?
I've got Ratchet. He's already filmed the Earthrise one, and guest starring the tag along RC green figure thing, because but after that is Starscream and the Seekers. I've got those 3-pack, and I've kind of modified them a bit, and then after that I really don't know. I've got 30 figures I want to do. I recently got an animated jazz. Someone sent me Masterpiece movie Ironhide, which is kind of an odd figure, and then there's like a swath of other ones that are coming out too, that by the time I actually get to those, I'm sure they'll be released and whatnot.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you foresee proceeding with the format that you have right now, or do you think it's gonna continue to change?
Well, I mean, like, it's never actually stayed the same. Like, if you look, say, every 10 reviews, it's always slightly different. And I'm always modifying it for whatever personality I have at the time, because, I mean, I'm always changing, because life is always changing. So there's that. But I'm also always putting in new stuff. Like, I got the 3D printer back in March, and so every once in a while I'll make a video about this thing I made. Like, I made feet for Ratchet and whatnot. And, like, I was super proud of that one. I made that a video. But I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just kind of whatever I'm feeling like.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the 3D printing stuff that you're doing. The 3D printing world of Transformers is it's its own niche of the community that wasn't there 10 years ago. I don't know if that sounds right to you, but 10 years ago, I don't think that had really taken off yet.
No.
And now it's exploded to be probably in itself bigger than just the customizing community was even before.
Kind of. Because I think a huge part of that was also accessibility. Like, you had to spend almost $1,000 10 years ago to 3D print, but now you can spend as much as a brand new PlayStation, and you've got yourself a printer that can make, like, if you didn't like, for instance, I didn't like the gun that Earthrise Prime came with, so I made him one that was fully accurate to the G1. I didn't like the whole tank mode of Megatron, so I made him a fusion cannon type thing. You can make anything, and if someone's already made it, you can print it, and you can fully flesh out your stuff.
Yeah, we live in the craziest day and age for Transformer collectors. Like, it's like like, I'm a big music fan, which, most people are. Nothing special there, but it's like the equivalent of, I fantasize about, I wish so-and-so did a cover of this song. It's like I could just produce that song on demand whenever I wanted to. Like, I I wish Paul McCartney sang, "Beat It" by Michael Jackson. Click, there it is. Now I can listen to that. Isn't that cool? And we just get to like make whatever we want now, which is so insane. And that
Mm,
totally didn't used to be the case. You had to be really good at customizing to pull off anything that you had
yeah.
just thought of yourself.
Like, I remember, like, I think it was 4.5 years ago. I tried doing a Bruticus custom, making a Vortex a new tail, and I didn't have a printer at the time, and Shapeways was like $30 for a new tail. Like, no, I'm not spending that much. So I ended up taking a junker from, what was it? The back end of another plane and tearing apart a Universe Tankor, and just like I kit bashed from like 5 different figures and made him a helicopter that looked garbage in the end of it because I wasn't that good at customizing. But like nowadays, I could just go online, grab a file, and all of a sudden I've got a Huey inspired rotor for Vortex.
Yeah. What freaks me out is, and I'm starting to realize one of the downsides of doing regular podcasts is because I'm probably going to start repeating myself a lot. I think I've said this before, but nonetheless, what we do at Toy Hacks is we make labels for Transformers. So our market is dependent, like we're like a parasite on of the Transformers market, and there are people making upgrade kits for our upgrade sets for the Transformers. The layers there are just, to me, it blows my mind that that's the
Yeah.
world we live in. I'm somebody is sending me. I wish I knew his name. I never got it, but it's the coolest thing. Somebody's sending me a glow in the dark roller that's meant to go with. We just released the set to turn the dead Prime into kind of a revived Dark Awakening inspired. Back to that episode.
Yeah.
Dark Awakening inspired Optimus Prime, as if he's under Quintesson control. And so this roller is, glow in the dark because he had green accents on him. And I'm just floored that exists. It baffles me that there are people making money off of that
Hmm.
and doing great work. Some of the conversion sets that we've done over the years, like the Pyrocons, people were doing various upgrade pieces for that, which is like it's really humbling too, because then you realize like, oh wow, like there are really people that take this stuff that we're doing seriously enough to then take their time to make their own projects that they're passionate about around that, and that starts to like kind of get at you on a weird level. Like, and I'm sure this is the same theme as when we were talking about like you being big. It must sometimes get to you in a weird way.
Yeah. Because I'm just one guy, father of two in the middle of Moncton, and I'm just like, do you guys have nothing better to do than watch one guy? Like, I don't like this much attention, but at the same time, it's really cool to see.
Yeah,
It's like, I don't think I could wrap my mind around it now, and I know in like. Because the channel has gone from 20,000 to 30,000 in the span of 6 months, and I've been running
wow,
this channel for 8 years. So
wow.
it's like, at this rate, I could be at 50,000 by the end of next year, and I can't wrap my mind around it now. What am I going to do then?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Maybe you'll have to start being a guest at conventions. Get some extra money on
Yeah,
the side there.
no kidding.
Yeah, for sure. But like for it's totally deserved because there is nobody doing anything like what you're doing. I mean, obviously, a lot of people are doing similar things. I shouldn't have worded it like that. But you're the all star as far as the stop motion oriented Transformers reviews. There is nobody else who comes close, and
You say so.
for sure. I mean, maybe I'm not aware of some other big name, and I don't mean to diss anybody by saying this. I'm sure there are a lot
No,
of other people that are good at stop motion, but you've made it your thing, and you're so passionate about it, and you dedicate so much of your time towards it that there's no question that uh, it would be weirder to me if I saw your channel and you had 100 subscribers. It would blow my mind. Because,
There's
of course, you deserve the 30,000.
I get that a lot. Like, how does this only have X amount of subscribers? And I'm like, because I don't know. I don't run this thing. But going back to what you said about like the passion thing, that's what I do it for. Like, I get this question so often where it's like, what do I have to do to get as many people as you have watching? And it's like, I don't know. I'm not making this to be famous. The only reason I'm doing it as a job right now is because it happened that way. If I wanted to make this a job, I wouldn't have started 8 years ago and then I would have gotten this. It would have been like after 2 years, oh, I've only got 1,000 subscribers. Guess this is going nowhere type of thing. But like, I make these videos because I want to make these videos, and the rest of it is bonus.
Yeah. It's interesting how the internet kind of works like that sometimes.
Yeah.
How it just kind of has a way of exposing, like, oh, here's a cool person, and it's visible enough to enough users online that they'll actually go and support that person. It's such a weird time for that reason. And of course, internet has always been a thing as long as I've been alive. I can't imagine the community thriving in the way that it does now prior to the internet. There's so much ability for niches to be properly supported, whereas before, like, if you just had the Trans Masters magazine, there's nothing, like, there was only so much real estate for people to spread their creations, that there's no way anybody could have gotten big doing anything unless it was the best, and that was just so unlikely at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what do you collect?
Mainly, I used to collect Masterpiece, but that just got way too expensive, especially in recent days. Like, I'm not even collecting it anymore, and I see the prices, and I nearly have a heart attack. It's just ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So nowadays, I collect the just Generations line, basically, whatever, War for Cybertron line. That's it. And then I've got some other like relics that I want to recollect. Like, one of the things I'm hunting for is like the original MPO3 Starscream in the military colors, 'cause I just think that's cool. Like, so I've got 4 shelves in our room. Like, one of them is scaled Decepticons for making shorts and reviews and whatnot. The other one's scaled Autobots, and both of those shelves are nearly complete. And then the other 2 shelves, one of them is just random odds and ends of Masterpiece and whatnot. Like, I've got a Masterpiece Bumblebee and the X-Transbots Wind Charger. Is that his name? Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that turns into a Firebird. But I'm mainly getting
Yep.
those for like customs and stuff like that. So it's just odds and ends I collect. Like, aside from Generations, which I mainly collect to get a season 1, season 2 main cast that's all relatively scaled with each other, I mainly collect odds and ends of whatever I think is cool.
Mm-hmm. And you were saying that you got into the whole Transformers world because of the movies. So what was that whole process like? You watch the movie, you like it, and you just start going online and interacting with other Transformer collectors, or was it a little slower paced than that?
It was way slower. Like, I barely went online for any of it. I was invited by a friend to watch the first movie at her house with a group of people, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And then, like, I was 18 at the time, maybe 17, and like, I had kind of grown out of a whole toy collecting phase. Like, I still had my Lego, because Lego's awesome and you can do whatever you want with that. And then it was like a year after watching the movie, it was just after Revenge of the Fallen came out, and I was with my friend, and we were in the store, and he's like, you should buy a Transformer. You like the series so much. I'm like, oh, I don't know. It's a toy. I don't know if I'll like it. I think it's kind of weird having toys in my room. It's like, you should do it. I'm like, fine, we'll flip a coin. And it was heads, so I bought it. It was Battle Cannon Shoulder Out Bumblebee. And it's like, this is actually really cool. And then like a week later, I bought Barricade, and that was all I had for like 6 months. And then I just started collecting other toys, just random odds and ends.
So did you know anybody else who collected Transformers?
No,
by the time
that was the thing.
Were you aware that was out there?
No, Like
Wow.
I was completely blank on this whole world of Transformer collecting.
That's it's so insane to me how often that happens. It's a more common story than I ever imagined.
Hmm.
That people the vast that there are so many people that get into this without having had to have had that support. Because I think back to my childhood, and I had a very different experience. My dad was a Transformer collector who ran toy hacks. There
Yeah.
was no like, is this a thing that people do? Of course it was. I mean, I struggled a little bit in high school because none of my friends understood it, but for the most part, it was just one of many acceptable hobbies to have. And of course, I'm passionate about it, which is why it's something that I'm still interested in to this
Yep.
day. But was that difficult for you at all?
Was what difficult? Sorry.
Like being the only Transformer collector that you knew for a while.
No, because I don't know. I've always been the kind of person to just do whatever. Um, I had a friend who was he had his own stuff. I mean, he had mainly Gundams. He collected that, so it was kind of neat to go over to his house and see his stuff. And I think his parents bought him Leader Class Revenge of the Fallen Megatron, so it was kind of cool to mess around with that.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, I don't know. I didn't really care. It's just always done what I've done.
You definitely keep coming back to that same kind of message. If you're just the person that you are, and you're just doing what you're really into, and you've clearly done that over a long period of time. That's clearly a very like persistent
Yeah,
personality trait of yours, which is really cool. And yeah,
I think the, the most standout memory of that kind of thing is um, like I'm a huge person. I'm 6'4",
mhm.
and so my parents bought me a queen size bed. Um, so like my sisters would have sleepover and invite all their friends over, and I would just give up my bed and go sleep somewhere else because they had like 6 people and they didn't want sleeping bags. Like, here, you just sprawl over my bed. One of my sister's friends walked in and sees my shelf, and there's like 20 different Transformers by that point. She just kind of stares at it and goes, "Wow, your brother has a lot of toys for a 20-year-old." That's who I am.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's interesting. I I'd love. I wish. Sometimes I find myself wishing that some academics would take a look at the Transformers community, because I'd love to see some stats. I'd love to start
Mm,
like I'd love to know like how many collectors dare to display toys in their like within 6 feet of their entrance. You know how many of us are that passionate and that uh, uh, proud of it that you're willing to that to put that to wear that on your sleeve, to have that be one of the first things that people see about you, because I know a lot of us don't do that. A lot of us
yeah.
keep that to ourselves until you really get to know a person.
So I've never hidden it from people,
Hmm.
but I've never. Well, I won't say never. When I moved out, I was two other roommates, and there was this whole shelf thing that was like 20 feet from our front door. And it's like, well, nothing else is going there, so I'm going to put every one of my Transformers because it's not going to fit in my room, type thing.
Hmm.
And that worked for about 3 months. But one of my roommates was huge into sports, and he thought it was the dorkiest thing ever, and kept poking fun at it. I'm like, forget it, just go into my room. I'm not dealing with this anymore.
Yeah.
So that was the only thing of that. And then nowadays, I'm like, I don't display it in the common area because it's like we have guests over, and I mean, it's not my life. It's kind of a hobby and job thing, so it stays in our room. But I mean, I've never hidden it. It's never been something I didn't want to share with people because it's like, this is me, and if you don't like that, then it's kind of your loss.
Yeah, for sure. What about now? Do you tend to have any? Oh, I just realized, by the way, I never let you finish your story about how you really got involved with Transformers, but I'll ask this question.
Sure,
Um,
I can't remember if I finished that or not, but all right.
um, so do you have any local friends that are also Transformer collectors?
No, I really don't. um, I think there are a few people in Moncton, but I don't know them personally. I've met a few people at Toys R Us before and just kind of shot the breeze and whatnot, but No, I don't know any collectors here. I used to know, I mean, I was good friends with two of them back in BC, but we weren't part of any communities or anything. It was just our little group of friends and we collected stuff.
That's cool. Or rather, that's interesting because sorry, I meant it's cool about your friends, but it's interesting how many of us are just totally isolated, and
Yeah.
how it's still something that continues to persist. And like,
So I don't really even mind that because like it's just a hobby. I find, so I've got the whole Discord thing, and there are times where we're in voice chat where it's like I just spent a whole day animating, thinking about Transformers. It's the end of the day. I don't want to talk about this right now. Let's just play whatever game we're on and move on type thing. And so I'm kind of glad I don't have friends in that because it allows me to take a break and kind of compartmentalize that part of my life and just leave it be. Otherwise, I'd burn out real quick.
Yeah. Well, you have the added dynamic of being well known online and well connected online, which I'm sure gives like some kind of like sense of community that I wonder if that's the same case with people who are not involved with any kind of online content creation. I wonder if people's feelings are the same if you don't have, if you don't do that during your workday the way that you and I do. Uh, do people start to develop feelings of isolation? Do you start to go crazy a little bit? Like I really genuinely wonder about it, and that's why I was talking about wishing that there were like some academics that would actually take a look at this. And I'm sure it's not an important enough issue for any academics to really look at it, but it's a real demographic of people with a very different hobby than most people just can't really relate to it. You have to like introduce what you do to the average person and talk about it a little bit for them to kind of go, okay, so they're toys and you display them on your shelves. Oh, interesting. And like
That's his exact reaction too.
for sure. And it's so hard for people to really get behind what that is. And obviously there are a lot of people that can, and power to those people, but it there must be some tangible trends within our group of people that would be nice to know. Like,
Yeah.
like I wonder if there are like reasons behind why, like do we have more in common as Transformer collectors than we realize? Are there underlying personality traits that bind us together more, and that maybe led us to be more interested in Transformers to begin with?
It's an interesting theory. I like it from just a technical engineering standpoint. Like, I think it's really cool that you can have a humanoid figure compressed down into a vehicle.
Yeah.
Like, I think that is just the coolest thing ever. I'm not really in it so much for the lore, which is probably why my humor hits so hard. Because like, I do make the referential stuff where it's like, okay, you guys built the tower and hired the constructor, whatever. Like, I have that stuff. But I've got a friend in Seattle who has told me he shares a lot of the skits with his mom, and she laughs without any context to whatever's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a great thing, is that I can make that kind of humor that appeals to pretty much everyone.
Yeah, for sure. Do you view the skit part of what you're doing? I'm realizing now as I'm about to try and ask the question that I'm trying to push you because I wish that you would just make your own TV show. That's all I want. I want you to just. I was gonna ask you, are you gonna take like your comedy skits further? And then I realized, shit, I asked a question like that a while back, and I genuinely think like it would be the coolest thing on earth if you just made a series. It could be funny. It could be serious. It doesn't matter. You're just. I think you're like dialogue and story writing. I think is more important than it's given credit for.
It's really difficult to do.
Yeah, but that's what you're nailing already. Even though your dialogue is funny, there's nothing wrong with that. You can still convey a message. You can have a serious plot point told through jokes.
Yeah. See, that's the thing, though, is I'm really terrible at creating original stuff. I'm better at taking what exists and then building upon it,
Mhm.
and then writing original story. I'm just. You could be right. I'm just not giving myself enough credit for it. I don't know, but I don't know. I probably need like a few people's help with that, because I tried writing a story while I was out of Transformers for those 2 years, where it was like two people flying to the moon because they got some random mysterious EM signature, and they're going to find this. It was going to be Lego,
Mhm.
and it was like that battle suit thing that Mecha or Lego Ideas made. It was going to be that versus a bunch of mystery boxes from Mindbender. And I thought that would have been a cool fight, but I couldn't write a story that I could read back and go, this is lame. So that's the thing. I'm terrible at writing exposition. It's difficult. Like, excuse me. I can write natural conversation, but the exposition part is where I fail.
I don't even know what that word means.
Exposition?
Yeah, in the context of story writing.
Telling people information without it making it seem like it's an info dump.
Okay, I see. So how you work in the important plot, like information to advance the plot, into just the scenes without it being, without it, like you said, just being an info dump.
That's you can write story. There's a few good examples. I think the Star Wars prequels are pretty good at that, where they tell you everything that's been going on, and they don't really show you any of the emotions you're supposed to feel. It's just like, yeah, we're friends. This is how you know we're friends, is because there was 300 missions you missed from between episodes 2 and 3. It's like, oh, okay, they're friends. We know that now. Cool.
Mm-hmm. I see.
It's bad writing, basically. I know it when I see it, and I'm terrible at writing good stuff.
Well, knowing when you see bad writing, that might be a sign that you're good at writing. Just a hint, maybe.
I mean, I can tell when someone does a bad skateboard trick. Doesn't mean I'm good at skateboards.
That's a good point too. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's this. Did you watch Scrubs at all?
Oh, I love that show.
Yeah, there was a character in it. I'm blanking on the name, but he was a terrible, terrible doctor for like 2 or 3 seasons, and they eventually said, "Hey, you might be good in the morgue. You might be good at figuring out why other people messed up."
Oh, there's my dead body. They're like little children. You leave them by the vending machine for 2 seconds, and they're gone.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we're just about at the hour mark here. So this was a blast. I enjoyed talking to you. You are underselling yourself so far as the unscripted stuff. You've come across great.
I'm good at conversations. I like that part. I can't unscript myself by myself, apparently.
Gotcha. So thank you very much for coming on. You're blessing my small channel with your presence.
Well, thank you for inviting me. This is actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, of course. What I'm hoping that this channel yields is more conversations like this. It's nice to talk about the news and the new toys or whatever it is that you happen to be doing, but I think that we need, as a community, a little bit more focus on some of the individuals and talking about the community as a whole and talking about just how we got here. What's our history? What's got us here so far? And so I hope if I can get enough conversations like this going, that this takes off. Not just this channel, but just the premise of it. I'd love to see the voice actors in hour-long discussions online. Where you could really get a chance, like a panel, but less distractions. Just getting a chance to hear that person talk about for an hour what it was like to be a voice actor in the 80s. How much cocaine did they do? How much to what degree did they take their role seriously, and really getting into all of those things. But anyways, I'm off on a tangent now. So,
yeah. See, that's the part about scripted I'm not good at. I'm just sort of reading the chat on this. Apparently, I'm supposed to say hi, Mom.
Oh, well, hi, George's mom as well.
Oh, no, I'm my mom.
Just some random person's mom?
Apparently.
I see. Okay, cool. Well, let's put an end to this. Thanks again. Or is there anything you want to plug, by the way? Do you want to tell people where they can find your channel?
You can find me at The Lazy Eyebrow on YouTube. That's mainly where I am. I'm on other places too. Again, under Lazy Eyebrow, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and yeah, I think that's it. I hope if I'm forgetting anything, that's par for the course, I guess. But yeah,
Cool.
thanks for having me on. It was fun.